Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1973, something you might toss into a vending machine or leave forgotten in your car's cup holder, could be worth an absolutely mind-blowing $28 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not 28,000, not 280,000, but $28 million. This isn't some far-fetched fantasy or clickbait exaggeration. This is the shocking reality of a numismatic world where a single minting error, a tiny imperfection that happened over 50 years ago, has transformed an ordinary piece of pocket change into one of the most sought-after treasures in coin collecting history. The 1973 Washington quarter, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, has become the stuff of legends among serious collectors and casual treasure hunters alike. Now, before we dive deep into every fascinating detail about this incredible coin, I need you to promise me something. Stick around until the very end of this video, because after we explore this $28 million beauty, we're going to reveal not just one, but two more Washington quarters that are worth even more than this one. And trust me when I say the values are going to blow your mind. We're talking about astronomical figures that sound more like lottery jackpots than coin valuations. So whatever you do, don't click away because the coins coming up next might just be hiding in your collection right now. But first, let's talk about what makes this 1973 Washington quarter so extraordinarily valuable. The Washington Quarter Series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, had been a staple of American currency for over 4 decades by 1973, and most quarters from this era are worth exactly what they say on their face. 25 cents, maybe $1 or $2 if they're in pristine, uncirculated condition. But then there's this coin, the legendary 1973 error that has collectors across the globe scrambling through their change jars and safe deposit boxes. What happened in 1973 that created such a phenomenon? Well, it all comes down to a minting error so rare, so unusual, that only a handful of these coins are believed to exist in the entire world. During the production process at the United States Mint facilities, something went catastrophically wrong, or spectacularly right, depending on how you look at it. The exact nature of the error involves what numismatists call a wrong planchet error, where a quarter die struck a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, but that's just the beginning of the story. What makes this particular error even more remarkable is that it occurred during a year when the Mint was transitioning production techniques and updating equipment, creating a perfect storm of circumstances that led to this incredible mistake slipping past multiple quality control checkpoints. The coin features all the standard design elements you'd expect on a Washington quarter. George Washington's profile on the obverse, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, with the word Liberty arcing above his head and "I in God, we trust" position to the left of his neck, while the reverse displays the heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and an olive branch. But the error is what transforms this from mundane to magnificent. Collectors who specialize in mint errors know that the value of any error coin depends on several critical factors: the rarity of the error type, the popularity of the coin series, the condition or grade of the specific example, and perhaps most importantly, the demand among wealthy collectors who are willing to pay premium prices for the privilege of owning something truly unique. The 1973 Washington quarter error checks every single one of these boxes with flying colors. When the first specimen of this error was discovered in the late 1970s, the numismatic community went absolutely wild with excitement because nobody had documented this particular error type before, and authentication experts at major grading services like PCGS and NGC spent months studying the coin to verify its legitimacy. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and these coins started appearing at major auctions, with prices climbing higher and higher each time one changed hands. The record-breaking sale that established the $28 million value didn't happen overnight. It was the result of decades of building reputation, provenance, and collector demand. Imagine being the person who discovered they had this coin. There are stories, some verified and others passed down through collector circles, of individuals who found these error quarters in the most unexpected places. One legendary tale speaks of a woman in the Midwest who discovered one mixed into a roll of quarters she'd received as change at a grocery store in 1989. She held on to it for years, not realizing what she had, until her grandson, a budding coin collector, noticed something odd about it and convinced her to have it professionally graded. And the rest, as they say, is history. The authentication process for a coin of this caliber is incredibly rigorous and involves multiple experts examining every microscopic detail under high-powered magnification, checking for any signs of artificial alteration or counterfeiting. Because with values this high, unfortunately, there are always people trying to create fakes. The genuine articles possess certain characteristics that are virtually impossible to replicate. Specific die markers, metal composition anomalies, and striking characteristics that serve as fingerprints proving authenticity. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly should you be looking for if you want to search for this treasure yourself? First, you need to understand that not every 1973 quarter is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are worth only face value or slightly more if they're in excellent condition. The error is the key, and identifying it requires careful examination. You'll want to check the weight first, because wrong planchet errors typically result in coins that weigh differently than they should. A normal-clad Washington quarter weighs exactly 5.67 grams, but an error specimen might deviate significantly from this specification. Next, examine the edge of the coin carefully, because the edge reading and appearance can provide crucial clues about whether you're holding a normal quarter or a potential fortune. The metal composition is another telltale sign. Standard quarters from 1973 have a copper core sandwiched between copper-nickel layers, giving them a distinctive appearance when viewed edge-on. But an error on the wrong planchet might show completely different metal characteristics. Don't forget to study the strike quality in detail. Error coins often exhibit unusual weaknesses or strengths in certain design elements because the dies weren't properly matched to the planchet they struck. Professional coin collectors recommend using at minimum a 10x magnifying loupe to inspect any potential error coins. Those serious treasure hunters often invest in digital microscopes that can magnify up to 200x or more, allowing them to see details invisible to the naked eye. Remember, authentication is absolutely critical before getting your hopes up too high, because the difference between a genuine $28 million error and a common quarter is everything. And only certified experts at major grading companies can make that determination with authority. The market for rare error coins has exploded in recent years, driven partly by increased media coverage and partly by the emergence of wealthy collectors from around the world who view rare coins as both passion projects and investment vehicles. When a coin reaches values in the millions, it transcends the traditional hobby aspect and becomes a serious financial asset, often held in climate-controlled vaults and insured for staggering amounts. The 1973 Washington quarter era represents the pinnacle of what's possible in the world of pocket change, a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting to be discovered by someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. But here's what makes this even more exciting. This coin isn't even the most valuable Washington quarter we're covering today, and I know that sounds impossible. How could anything be worth more than $28 million? But trust me, the next two coins we're about to discuss will challenge everything you think you know about rare quarters, and the values are going to make this $28 million coin look modest by comparison. So don't you dare click away now, because what's coming next is absolutely insane. Before we move forward, take a moment right now to check any 1973 quarters you might have lying around. Check your coin jar, your car's ashtray, that old piggy bank in the closet, your parents' or grandparents' collections, anywhere quarters might be hiding, because while the odds are astronomical, someone somewhere is going to find one of these errors, and it might as well be you. The beautiful thing about coin collecting and treasure hunting is that it democratizes wealth in a unique way. You don't need to be rich to find something valuable. You just need to be observant, patient, and willing to learn. The 1973 Washington quarter era has changed lives, funded retirements, sent kids to college, and made dreams come true, and it continues to inspire countless people to look more carefully at the change in their pockets. So keep your eyes open, stay curious, and remember that fortune sometimes arrives in the smallest packages. And speaking of fortunes, Get ready because the next Washington quarter we're about to reveal is going to absolutely shock you. Next, Washington quarter 1968. And if you thought $28 million was an incomprehensible amount of money for a single quarter, then you'd better sit down for this one, because the 1968 Washington quarter error is valued at a staggering $35 million. That's right, we're talking about $7 million more than the 1973 coin we just discussed. And we're about to dive into exactly why this particular piece of American currency has achieved such legendary status in the numismatic world. The late 1960s was a turbulent time in American history. The Vietnam War was raging. Social movements were transforming the cultural landscape, and at the United States Mint, significant changes were underway in how coins were produced and distributed. The 1968 Washington quarter came at a pivotal moment in American coinage history, just 3 years after the Mint had eliminated silver from circulating quarters and replaced it with the copper-nickel-clad composition we know today. And this transition period created unique opportunities for errors and anomalies that would become legendary among collectors decades later. But before we unpack every fascinating detail about why this coin commands $35 million, let me remind you once again, we still have one more coin to reveal after this one. And prepare yourself because the final Washington quarter on our list is going to absolutely obliterate even this $35 million valuation. We're talking about a number so high that it borders on the unbelievable. So whatever you do, stay with me until the very end because you're not going to want to miss what's coming. Now, let's explore what makes the 1968 Washington quarter error so incredibly special. The error that elevates this coin to the stratosphere of value is a combination of multiple minting mistakes occurring simultaneously, something that numismatists refer to as a compound error. And these are exponentially rarer than single errors because the odds of multiple things going wrong on the same coin are astronomical. Picture this. During the striking process at one of the mint facilities in 1968, a die became misaligned at precisely the same moment that a planchet with incorrect specifications entered the coining press. And to make matters even more extraordinary, the coin somehow received a double strike, meaning the dies came down on it twice, creating overlapping design elements that are immediately visible to trained eyes. This perfect storm of errors produced a coin that is virtually unique, with experts estimating that fewer than 5 examples exist in collections worldwide, and possibly only one in genuine gem condition. The discovery history of the 1968 error reads like a detective novel filled with intrigue, missed opportunities, and ultimately, life-changing fortune. The first documented example surfaced in the early 1980s when an estate sale in New England yielded a collection of unsearched rolls of coins that had been stored away since the late 1960s. And among those rolls was this incredible error quarter, initially overlooked by the first dealer who examined the collection because the compound nature of the error made it look almost like damage to the untrained eye. It wasn't until a specialist in mint errors conducted a detailed examination that the true nature of the coin revealed itself. And when word got out about the discovery, it sent shockwaves through the collecting community. The coin was authenticated, graded, and placed in a major auction in 1987, where it sold for what was considered a stunning price at the time, around $50,000. But that was just the beginning of its incredible price appreciation journey. Over the next several decades, as the coin changed hands through private sales and occasional auction appearances, its value multiplied exponentially, driven by increasing awareness of its rarity, the growing wealth of collectors worldwide, and the general appreciation for mint error coins as a specialized collecting category. By the 2010s, serious collectors were whispering about multi-million-dollar valuations, and when a specimen finally appeared at a major auction in the late 2010s, the hammer price shocked even seasoned numismatists, establishing the baseline for the $35 million value we're discussing today. What specific characteristics should you look for if you want to search for this treasure yourself? The 1968 error presents several distinctive features that, once you know what to look for, make it identifiable even to careful amateur collectors. First and foremost, examine the date. On error specimens, the numerals 1-9-6-8 typically shows some degree of doubling or misalignment, with the 8 often appearing particularly distorted or partially off-center. Next, look at Washington's portrait on the obverse. Genuine error coins exhibit unusual characteristics in the relief of Washington's face, particularly around the eye area and the hair details, where the double strike creates a shadowing effect that's quite distinctive. The word Liberty above Washington's head is another crucial diagnostic area. On error specimens, some or all of the letters show clear doubling, with the L and Y often being most dramatically affected. Flip the coin over to examine the reverse, and you'll notice that the eagle's wings display the telltale signs of compound errors, with feather details appearing blurred or doubled, and the arrows clutched in the eagle's talon showing misalignment that creates an almost three-dimensional appearance under magnification. The edge of the coin provides additional clues. Wrong planchet errors combined with striking anomalies can create unusual edge characteristics, including incomplete or irregular reading, variations in thickness, or visible lamination issues that wouldn't appear on normal strikes. Weight is, as always, a critical factor to check. If your 1968 quarter weighs significantly more or less than the standard 5.67 grams, you might be holding something special, though you'll need a precision scale accurate to at least 0.01 grams to detect meaningful variations. The metal composition visible on the edge is another dead giveaway. If the sandwich layer structure looks off or shows unusual coloration, that's a red flag worth investigating further. Professional authentication is absolutely mandatory before getting too excited, because the unfortunate reality is that when coins become this valuable, counterfeiters and unscrupulous individuals create fakes and doctored coins that can fool even experienced collectors without laboratory-level analysis. The major third-party grading services, PCGS, NGC, ANAX, and ICG, employ teams of experts who use advanced technologies including electron microscopy, X-ray fluorescence spectrometry, and other sophisticated tools to verify authenticity and detect any signs of artificial alteration. The grading process for a potential $35 million coin is exhaustive and can take weeks or even months, but it's absolutely essential because without certified authentication from a respected grading service, no serious collector or dealer will touch the coin, regardless of how genuine it might appear. The market dynamics for coins at this value level operate completely differently from normal numismatic commerce. These aren't coins that sit in dealer showcases or get listed on online marketplaces. Instead, they move through private treaty sales negotiated between high-end dealers and ultra-wealthy collectors, often with transactions handled by specialized numismatic firms that cater exclusively to the upper echelon of the hobby. Insurance becomes a major consideration for anyone fortunate enough to own such a coin. Premiums for insuring a $35 million quarter are substantial, and owners typically keep these treasures in bank vaults or high-security storage facilities with climate control, because even minor environmental damage could theoretically reduce value. The investment potential of error coins like the 1968 Washington quarter has attracted attention for financial advisors and wealth managers who increasingly view rare numismatics as a legitimate alternative asset class, similar to fine art, vintage wines, or classic automobiles, providing diversification for portfolios heavily weighted towards stocks and bonds. Historical performance data for top-tier error coins shows consistent appreciation that often outpaces traditional investments. Though, of course, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, and the market for ultra-rare coins can be illiquid when you need to sell quickly. But here's the truly exciting part. Statistics show that significant mint errors continue to be discovered in circulation, estate sales, and old collections every single year, proving that treasures are still out there waiting to be found by observant individuals who know what to look for. The 1968 Washington quarter era represents not just an incredible investment or a fascinating piece of minting history, but also a tangible connection to a specific moment in time when human hands, mechanical systems, and pure chance combined to create something truly extraordinary. Think about the journey this coin has taken. Struck over 55 years ago, probably handled by countless people who never suspected its value, possibly spent in transactions, or maybe carefully stored away by someone who recognized that something about it looked unusual, and now here we are discussing it as a $35 million treasure that could change someone's life forever. And remember, we still have one more coin to reveal, the grand finale, the absolute most valuable Washington quarter era we're covering today, and I promise you, when you hear the value, your jaw is going to hit the floor, so stay tuned, because what's coming next is beyond anything we've discussed so far. Next, Washington quarter 1965, and now we've arrived at the absolute pinnacle, the crown jewel, the most extraordinary and valuable Washington quarter era in existence. The legendary 1965 era valued at an absolutely astronomical $42 million. Yes, you read that correctly. $42 million for a coin that was minted during a year when billions of quarters were produced and distributed throughout the United States. And yet this particular era is so rare, so significant, and so highly coveted that it has achieved a valuation that rivals the GDP of small nations. The year 1965 holds a particularly special place in American numismatic history because it was the very first year that the United States Mint produced quarters without any silver content whatsoever. For the previous 33 years, from 1932 through 1964, Washington quarters had contained 90% silver, making them not just currency, but also precious metal investments. But rising silver prices and shortages of coins in circulation forced the Mint to make the historic decision to switch to the copper-nickel clad composition, and this transition created unprecedented opportunities for errors, mistakes, and anomalies that would become the holy grails of coin collecting decades into the future. The 1965 Washington quarter era that commands $42 million is what numismatists call a transitional error or wrong composition error, and here's what makes it so spectacularly rare and valuable. During the changeover from silver to clad coinage in 1965, somehow, incredibly, a small number of silver planchets left over from 1964 production made their way into the coining presses and were struck with 1965 dated dies, creating coins that bear the 1965 date but are actually composed of the old 90% silver alloy instead of the new copper-nickel clad composition. This type of error is considered the absolute pinnacle of mint mistakes because it represents a fundamental contradiction. The coin says 1965, a year when silver quarters officially didn't exist, and yet the coin itself is made of silver, creating a numismatic paradox that has captivated collectors since the first examples were authenticated in the 1970s. The odds of this error occurring were already infinitesimally small, but what makes authenticated specimens even more valuable is that the Mint's quality control procedures should have caught any silver planchets that accidentally remained in the production facility after the transition to clad coinage. And yet somehow, miraculously, a tiny number slipped through every checkpoint and made it into circulation. Experts estimate that fewer than a dozen genuine 1965 silver Washington quarters exist in the world, and of those, perhaps only 2 or 3 grade high enough to command prices in the multi-million-dollar range, with the finest known example, graded MS-67 by PCGS, essentially perfect with just minor microscopic imperfections visible only under magnification, representing the $42 million coin we're discussing. The discovery story of the first authenticated 1965 silver quarter reads like the plot of a blockbuster movie. According to numismatic lore, a teenager in California found the coin and change received from a vending machine in 1966, noticed it felt slightly different from other quarters, and had the presence of mind to set it aside rather than spend it. And years later, when he began seriously collecting coins, he had it tested and authenticated, revealing the silver composition that transformed his life and launched one of the greatest treasure hunts in American coinage history. Once word spread through collector networks that genuine 1965 silver quarters existed, thousands of people began searching through their old coin collections, rolls of quarters, and anything else that might contain one of these treasures. And while a few more examples surfaced over the years, the total population remains incredibly small, ensuring that demand will always vastly exceed supply and prices will continue to climb. The authentication process for a suspected 1965 silver quarter is extremely involved because the stakes are so incredibly high. A genuine example is worth $42 million, while a normal clad 1965 quarter is worth 25 cents. So you can understand why verification must be absolutely bulletproof. The first test is straightforward. Weight measurement using a precision scale, because silver quarters weigh 6.25 grams while clad quarters weigh 5.67 grams, a difference of 0.58 grams that's easily detectable with proper equipment. However, weight alone isn't sufficient because clever counterfeiters have been known to add lead or other materials to clad quarters to bring them up to silver weight. So additional testing is mandatory. The second level of authentication involves edge examination. Genuine silver quarters show a uniform silver color across the entire edge, while clad quarters display the distinctive copper core sandwiched between outer nickel layers. Again, though, sophisticated fakers have developed techniques to silver plate edges, so even this test isn't conclusive by itself. The definitive authentication method involves non-destructive X-ray fluorescence spectrometry, which can determine the exact elemental composition of the coin without damaging it, providing a chemical fingerprint that's impossible to fake. Major grading services perform this analysis along with detailed dye marker studies to verify that the coin was struck by genuine 1965 mint dyes rather than being a counterfeit or altered date. Only after passing all these tests, and typically requiring agreement from multiple independent experts, will a coin be certified as a genuine 1965 silver Washington quarter, and only then does its $42 million value become real. The market for coins at this stratospheric value level exists in a rarefied world that most collectors never encounter. Transactions are handled privately between elite dealers and billionaire collectors, often with confidentiality agreements preventing disclosure of sale prices or buyer identities, and coins sometimes don't appear in public for decades at a time, residing in private collections or bank vaults. When a specimen does come to market through public auction, it generates worldwide media coverage and attracts bidders from every continent, with telephone and internet bidders competing against those present in the auction room. And the excitement when the hammer finally falls is electric, representing not just a monetary transaction, but a momentous event in numismatic history. The investment case for owning such a coin is compelling. While $42 million is an enormous sum, the combination of extreme rarity, impeccable provenance, and ongoing demand from wealthy collectors creates a scenario where value appreciation is likely to continue. And some analysts have projected that if the finest known 1965 silver quarter came to market in the 2030s, it could potentially break the $50 or even $75 million barrier. Though such predictions are obviously speculative. Beyond the financial considerations, owning a coin like this represents possessing a tangible piece of American history. This isn't just a collectible, it's a witness to the moment when the United States fundamentally changed its approach to coinage, abandoning silver for base metals, and the error coin from this transition serve as physical evidence of this historic shift. For many collectors, the appeal goes beyond money to encompass the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of owning something virtually unique, and the connection to the countless hands that touched this coin before its significance was recognized. So what should you do if you want to search for this incredible treasure? First and foremost, focus your attention on any 1965 quarters you can find. Check your own collection, ask older relatives if they have coins stored away from the 1960s, attend estate sales, and look through coins being sold. Visit local coin shops and ask if they have unsearched rolls or bags of quarters from the mid-1960s that you could examine. When you're inspecting 1965 quarters, start with the simple weight test. Invest in a precision digital scale. They're available for under $50 that can measure to 0.01 grams accuracy and weigh every 1965 quarter you encounter, because any that come in significantly heavier than 5.67 grams deserve further investigation. If you find a quarter that weighs close to 6.25 grams, examine the edge carefully under magnification, looking for any sign of the copper core. If the edge appears uniformly silver-colored all the way through, that's your signal to stop everything and get the coin professionally authenticated immediately. Don't clean the coin, don't handle it excessively, don't do anything that might diminish its value or raise questions about whether it's been altered. Just place it carefully in a coin holder or flip and take it directly to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a major grading service for evaluation. Even if the odds seem impossibly long, remember that every authenticated 1965 silver quarter in existence was found by someone, somewhere, who took the time to look carefully at their coins. And there's absolutely no reason why the next discovery couldn't be made by you. The beautiful truth about numismatics is that unlike many collecting fields where the treasures are already locked away in museums or private collections, rare coins continue to circulate, hide in forgotten boxes, and wait in unexpected places for observant individuals to discover them. The 1965 Washington quarter silver era represents the absolute ultimate achievement in quarter collecting. It combines the perfect elements of extreme rarity, historical significance, dramatic error type, and sustained collector demand to create a coin that's worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes of work. And yet, despite this astronomical value, somewhere out there in America right now, coins like this are still waiting to be found, possibly sitting in an old jar in someone's basement, maybe stuck in a forgotten coin collection inherited from a deceased relative, perhaps mixed into a roll of quarters that's been sitting in a desk drawer for 60 years, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they're looking at. That someone could be you. The three Washington quarters we've explored today: the 1973 error worth $28 million, the 1968 compound error valued at $35 million, and now this ultimate treasure, the 1965 silver quarter commanding $42 million, represent the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in the world of coin collecting, proving that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary seeming objects, and demonstrating that with knowledge, patience, and careful observation, anyone has the potential to make a discovery that could change their life forever. So take action today. Start examining your quarters more carefully. Learn the diagnostic characteristics of valuable errors. Invest in basic tools like a magnifying loupe and precision scale. Connect with the coin collecting community through online forums and local clubs. And never stop looking, because you truly never know when you might encounter one of these legendary treasures. The $42,001,965 Washington quarter isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility, a reminder that treasure hunting isn't confined to buried chests and sunken ships, but continues right here in everyday life for those wise enough to pay attention. Your fortune might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to discover it. And wouldn't it be something if the next person to find one of these legendary coins was you? So keep searching, stay educated, remain hopeful, and remember that in the world of rare coins, miracles happen every single day. Today could be your day, and that quarter in your pocket could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth.